hear me, David Lee Fail?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, but you know how you could hear me better?
If you had a microphone,
That a microphone in a weekend van. Being
that would be
mobile,
much better.
being mobile, I will tell you what, sometimes it's great to be mobile. Go on vacation, go different places, see different things. But you get there to those different places and different things. There's no place to podcast. If I would have driven to Revelstoke, Canada, David Lee Scales in a weekend van, which I could have done very easily, we wouldn't be having this problem.
That's true. Your audio wouldn't be all uh pingy or tinny or whatever the sound is that I'm hearing right now. It'd be
Do I just
perfect.
do I just sound like garbage? Should I try to take the headphones off and
Yeah.
do it that way? Okay,
Yeah.
let's see. Is this better?
Oh my gosh, way better.
Way better?
Way better, like 20
Okay, hold
times
on. Now I
better.
can't hear you.
Okay. Check
Oh,
one, two, check one, two.
I'm better now.
Yeah, this is 20 times better.
Okay, but not as good as if I was in a weekend van, I'll tell you what, with a microphone and with a van around me
And a heater.
and a heater. Look at, can you see that breath?
Looks like you're smoking a cigarette.
She was going to be smoking this whole entire podcast.
Weekendvans.com. I brought the weekend van to your house as I promised. I think it was last week, maybe the week before.
It's incredible.
Isn't it?
I'll tell you, like, I've seen living in Cardiff by the Sea, I've had my nose poked into more Sprinter vans than I can count, right? Like walking through the parking lots when they existed. Did you know there's no more parking lots down in Cardiff by the Sea, by the way?
All washed
People,
away.
yep, people don't come down. There's no more place to be. The surf has gone flat and there's no more parking. So just leave Cardiff alone. But that being said, back in the day when I used to walk around and look into the back of Sprinters when there were parking lots, I'd always think, I think we all do this. What would I do with my Sprinter? How would I make it look, right? And every one I've seen, I'm always like, it's like looks like a weird bad use of space. Like, why not just get a truck? You're just using the whole back of this like a truck, right? And maybe you got some, I don't know, like it just seems all unnecessary. You rocked up in that weekend van. The sleeping arrangement was both seemed both maximized, stylish, and comfortable. Where there's two bunks on the back or two beds stacked in the back like bunks, but both are like full size with the place for the boards underneath, the middle zone, which can be both like good for driving and or you swing those chairs around, captain's chairs, love a captain's chair, and there you are in a living room.
Perfect acoustics for podcasting. The solar powers the thing. And so I don't know what kind of a generator they're using, but I've recorded for hours in there with AC and or heat, and it's dead silent. There's no generator sound.
I mean, whatever they're doing at weekend vans, again, like there's one thing doing your DIY, being a DIY bro, like, oh man, I'm gonna do it myself, right? I reckon how many DIY bros do you know in your life who should actually be the DIY bro? I know one. I know one dude who bought a house in Vermont and fix it up. And I look at the pictures and it's everything is perfect. And I went to that house and it's ideal and beautiful.
Okay.
Every other DIY bro I know, I think you should have that someone do that for you, man. Like,
Hire the professionals.
yep.
All
Which
right.
I don't
Well,
know why you would try to get your own van. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, weekendvans.com at weekendvans, of course. They provide our mobile podcast studio, which Chaz should be using right now. If anybody who's not watching the video version needs to know, it looks like one of the fake backgrounds that Zoom does, where it just cuts out your little profile and you put like a beautiful beach in the back, except it's
Yep.
a gorgeous snowy landscape. And I can tell that it isn't a fake landscape because of your breath and the attire that you're wearing. But where are you right now?
I am in Revelstoke, British Columbia, Canada. A interior. It's the Rocky Mountains, actually, is where I am. And yeah, was here for natural selection, the snowboard contest, the Travis Rice and team snowboard contest happens once a year. It is by far and away the greatest thing in extreme sports. I mean, I haven't been to, I'll say, mountain bike contests or I don't know, kayak contests or whatever, however we want to classify extreme sports. But this compared to a surf contest, absolutely I mean, it brings shame upon surfing. I'm just going to be frank and honest.
Listener email says, yo, I hope Chaz attended the natural selection while in Revelstoke. As you both have stated many times, the WSL execs should be taking notes too. Better yet, let's just get Red Bull on board and create the tour that you both have pushed for. Cut the field in half, 4 events in the world's most critical waves with the best surfers. Leave, where I loved how the broadcast team for NS was based in Santa Monica. How much money could be saved by not dragging around and setting up all that, setting up a small city at every venue work?
I mean, it's 100% true. Like they do it right. And even this one, uh, like it's a, Revelstoke is a phenomenal, phenomenal place. And they, of course, snowboarding, they're not doing it inbounds. It's backcountry, which is awesome. Uh, but this time, the feed went dead. The
Mm.
satellite uplink stopped working. Like I think it was probably 3/4 of the way through. And so there was a good hour plus maybe of no action, right? And so they were back in the studio in Santa Monica, but like not only Natural Selection hires great announcers, Todd Richards and Ed Lee and like the entire crew is awesome. And I didn't get bored of watching them. Like, so I packed out to the venue for the morning with young daughter. And then we shredded back down and I caught the second half down here at the village. And I didn't know that the satellite went dead for a minute. I was just like enjoying the banter, like where none of this is rocket science. I mean, sometimes we complain so much about the World Surf League that I think, is it really actually that hard? And we just, not having done it, we are just ignorantly sitting off to the sidelines and criticizing and poking and all this, like while not doing it. And then I watch something that's 20 times better and think, no, everything we are saying is true. That like so even talking about the commentary team, right? They are critical of the action as it's happening. They're dissecting it, but in a way that is both informative and critical of this guy did this guy did this is better, this is worse, whatever. When the judges throw up a score that is not what they thought, they full ride the judges pretty hard. Like they go in and say, I don't know what they're doing now. This is just whatever, right? Like, but it's not in a baby out with the bathwater kind of way. It's all informative. And then they discuss and try to, I mean, it's like to see a quality uh sporting event like in this kind of way just makes me hate the WSL all the more.
Well, the essence of that is the backcountry element, I think, is really intriguing. Like understanding kind of the essence of snowboarding is exactly that. It's not when you're learning, of course, you're on groomed runs, but to the WSL version of that would be, and maybe it exists in snowboarding, would be if they really just start focusing on the gymnastics of the snowboarding and you put them in a confined environment that is the exact same for everybody. And then what they're focused on doing is the gymnastic element of a particular trick. And that would become very boring very quickly. I think you could really readily see that. And I don't follow snowboarding at all. And I've grown up skiing. So like I have an appreciation for skiing, but I don't really follow snowboarding. But anytime your wife or you or somebody else posts something about natural selection, it engages me as a non-snowboarder
I
because I
mean,
see I see the elements in the deep snow and I'm trying to find a line and I'm like, where's this guy going to go? What's he going to do? And so it's totally engaging. And then when I do listen to the commentary, it provides insights for me as a non-snowboarder. So it's
I mean,
executing.
completely. And what you described, the version of snowboarding, the wave pool version is, essentially Olympic snowboarding, right? It's half
Yeah,
pipe
yeah.
or slope style or that kind of stuff, which has its place. It's all the gymnastic element is fine in and of itself, right? It's not my favorite, but like this, which I think you're always droning on and on about, man and woman versus nature is the essence of these sports. It's not man and woman versus man and woman. It
Yeah.
is the nature. That's what we love in surfing. That's when surfing is best. And of course, that's when I think snowboarding is best too, where you have this giant mountain and these riders get to pick, any line they want down this insane face. Like for natural selection, the morning of the run or the run day, half or not half, but a portion, I think it was a good quarter of the mountain slid, like a full avalanche. Uh, and so, that zone was then off, but like just that kind of thing happening brings a kind of dynamic vision to the whole the whole what you're watching, knowing, and even yeah, I was with it standing around with a guy named Mikey Nixon, who's an epic snowboard journalist, writes for the Inertia, unfortunately. But maybe we can figure out a way to bring. Maybe I can restart LodgeGrid and bring him over. But in any case, he was like, "Yeah," telling me about the slide, and he was like midway through, kind of. We were standing around there, and he was like, just FYI, you might want to be a little bit aware of that zone because it can still go like, and so being out there on site thinking this is awesome, like just Nate, like the grandness of nature, which I feel when I'm like sitting on the beach at Pipeline or when I've seen Waimea or these really dynamic venues, right, where you can feel the power of
Yeah.
nature. It adds an element that is sorely missing in Portugal, let's say.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So that's distilled completely down. When I see the imagery, what I'm tapping into is there's somebody at the top of the mountain that needs to get down to the bottom of the mountain. And so that's a human, like very visceral in the recesses of our like brain of that's an problem that human beings have had to encounter. When I see the snowboard Olympics where there's a half pipe or whatever, that's not a realistic situation. There's nothing in my human body that was like, oh, that I could opt into it, of course, but there's no scenario where I would be in there on my own. And so that's what it is, and that's what surfing is when you're talking about being on the ocean, seeing that big wave come and having this visceral human fear. That's what you really want to tap into.
I mean, you're exactly right because which I didn't really think about before, but it's totally true. When I watch like not Jaws necessarily, but when you see like Big Pipeline, when you see let's just bring Philippe Toledo back into the conversation. When you see Philippe out there being a spineless little noodle, uh the like inevitable, I think, for everybody is what would I do out there? And of course,
Yes,
we don't have the skill, and we discussed this ad nauseum, but it's still the feeling of what would I do out there, right? Is great. And that's what I feel like when these snowboarders, there's like a whole cliff section, right? And they'll get not caught up in the cliff, but they will be like, I mean, to come on like heel side and then have to jump toe side down this thing. And I think, what if because it could, accidentally I could be out snowboarding and get off track and be on a cliff face. How do you get down that cliff, right? Which
yeah,
is fun. It's a fun element to think about, which I never think about in Portugal, for example, or any kind of small wave or less dynamic wave they have on tour. I don't think, ooh, what would I be doing out there? I know exactly what I'd be doing. I'd be pumping down the line and then trying to do a you know, roundhouse cutback at some point. Like
yeah.
it's all dumb and meaningless.
Totally. Well, one of the news stories coming out of this event is, quote, son of surfboard shaper shocks world with sledgehammer performance at snowboard spectacular natural selection. Who
Who
is
would have
the
seen it
guy?
coming? Do you know Simon Elston?
I mean, I do after I read your article, but I was not aware of him
Yeah,
prior.
yeah. So he's a shaper, Australian shaper who lives in Bend, which just so happens who else lives in Bend at David Lee Scale that you know?
Pretty much everybody on the planet has moved to Bend.
Everybody, including maybe the pioneer to Bend who made it all possible, Jerry Lopez. One Jerry Lopez lives in Bend in a long time. I remember Jerry Lopez, I think, moved to Bend when I was still it was either when I was still living in Oregon or just after I'd come to college. And I was utterly, utterly confused. I think I've
Me
talked about
too.
this before. I was like, what is he doing? He's moving to away from, in my mind, away from his pipeline house, which I don't know where he was actually living when he moved to Bend. But I thought, okay, he's moving from Pipeline to Bend, Oregon. And I had been to Bend and I was like, what? Now I understand more with the snowboarding and falling in love with snowboarding myself in a deeper way. But anyhow, Simon Elston, Australian shaper, shapes for Jerry, shapes for I think a bunch up in Bend. But his son Jared Elston is a snowboard ripper, one of the youngest in the field, which they talked about again. Learning something on a sport broadcast or an action sport broadcast, who would think? But they were talking about the age of the natural selection, like the natural selection riders are like the absolute best in big country snowboarding, but they're all kind of older. And they were talking about how, a half pipe or whatever, that's all a young man's game. This backcountry, you need experience to like, only learned through doing it and doing it and doing it and getting in different situations and how do you get out of the situation and seeing things, okay, I know this pillow line is this, or I know, whatever. All this is, there's no way to get better except for doing it. And so there, a lot of the riders are older. Like Travis now is what, I think 42. 41
Wow.
or 42, but still at the very best of their game because, just the knowledge they have. I think Jared is 25, so he was one of the youngest in the field, but still his like instinct and ability to just send it was, yeah, inspirational.
Well, that's a really great comparison to in surfing, young guys doing airs versus, Kelly Slater being 50 and still being the guy to beat when it's big and barreling. You
Yeah,
need that much experience to really understand the ocean when it's big and barreling.
especially at waves that matter as waves, right? You need that experience at Chopu when knowing, okay, this little bend in the swell direction is going to equal XYZ down here, or at Pipeline, or at, any wave that's like, I think iconic. And I mean, I wonder too, like mountains, there's more iconic mountains, I think. Like there's more iconic backcountry. Like for example, where the natural selection, this, I think it's called, I can't remember what it's called, not day one or whatever it is, the live day of natural selection, uh, where they do it is backcountry Revelstoke. But there's one of the chutes is called Bar Fight, that you can come down, and I think that was one of the ones that slid, and so they weren't letting riders, or yeah, it was off bounds or out of bounds, but called Bar Fight because Travis Rice years and years and years ago found it, uh, tumbled down it, and afterwards, I think it was on film, and afterwards they asked, what did that feel like? And he said, I felt like I just got into a bar fight. So, but all to say, like, there are these places, in mountains around the world. I think these epic, like legendary places. I think there's a lot fewer epic legendary waves, and we just keep trying to stack more and more on. But I think we could count probably the epic waves on the planet with our both hands, right? And so I don't know why the tour just isn't there. Only
Yeah.
there, Cloudbreak, Chopu, Pipeline. I mean, we don't need to go over them all, but there's not that many. There's not like undiscovered waves out there, I think, in terms of epic and worthy of, yeah, having contests at.
Yeah, there's a certain echelon. There's a lot of great waves, but then there's like an
Sure.
echelon above that is like cloud break,
Iconic. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where the cream rises to the top. Like there's a lot of great surfers who can surf, you know, I don't know what.
Huntington Beach.
Yeah. Well, or any number of challenging waves, let's say. But then when you get to Greenbush and it's 8 feet,
Yes.
there's like 2 dozen guys on the planet who can actually go toe to toe with that wave.
Which, I
So
mean, it should be so, like, again, not to drone on and on about natural selection, but that's what it is, right? They pick the best big country riders in the entire world. They filter that down even unto the best of the best who can actually perform on these places. That's it. The wave should dictate who is on tour, and they should pick again, you said it, the best waves in the world and who can surf those waves. Not Felipe Toledo cannot, right? It
yeah.
all automatically Felipe Toledo is out of the running. Now, if Felipe wants to go learn how to do that, he could be more than welcome back in the community, but it solves every problem. Again, as you've stated time and time again.
Um, so the solve there, or the reason natural selection ended up happening was it wasn't happening by the arbiters of, snowboarding professional competitions. And so you have a professional snowboarder who took it upon himself to do it. And so that same thing could very well happen in surfing. Kelly
Yeah.
Slater, next phase of his career, retires from the tour and just invites John Gabe and Jack Robinson to come compete at Cloudbreak next time it's 20 feet.
I mean, Kelly would be one of the only ones who could do it. It's a bummer that weed surfing does not have a Travis Rice. Like Travis dabbled in competitive snowboarding for a minute and then didn't want it anymore, right? Walked away to do film and whatever, and then created because this natural selection, right? What this iteration of it is, maybe I think they've done 3 of these, but he and the wife actually is the co-founder of natural selection. I think they started it. The first one was like 20, I don't know, a long time ago. It's been like
For
years and years.
clarity, your wife,
Yeah,
Travis and your wife, not
yeah,
his wife.
yeah. Sorry, using the definite article gets me into trouble. But yeah, like this thing has been going on for a long, long, long time. And it's just a contest that Travis wanted to see. It's the kind of snowboarding, big mountain backcountry snowboarding that he wants to see, right? Where I feel Kelly has been so, I don't know, Kelly's just been part of the WSL machine for so long. It's not like it would need, who's a surfer that like, I don't know, like maybe a
Dane,
Nate Fletcher or something.
yeah, Dane Reynolds, was on tour, now isn't. Nathan
Yeah.
never was on tour. So there's got to be a long list of guys that did that.
But that could create it, right? That have enough
Right.
gravitas that could say this WSL surfing is not the surfing I want to see. It's not the surfing anybody wants to see. And so follow me. But it has to be like Travis has that weight, right? Like every one of these snowboarders is here because of Travis. And like they know it
Yeah.
and will do will come anywhere and do anything. Like last year, the course was so scary that they were all completely quaking in their boots, but nobody was not going to drop because this is the one Travis picked, right? Like
Yeah.
whereas I don't know that surfing necessarily has that figure.
5 hours ago, Strider posted on Instagram. One of the stories, by the way, that happened in this last week was Kelly Slater opted not to go to Portugal, citing a hip injury. Gets a couple of sick waves in Hawaii after saying that, and then goes to Kira and scores like, the swell
Sickest.
or the session of the year thus far at Kira with only five guys out. So, anyways, Strider posted 5 years or 5 hours ago on Instagram. He said, "What a photo!" Posted this photo of Kelly getting shacked at a long running, right? And he says, "Kelly Slater right here, right where he deserves to be." That's the first thing I thought when I saw this image. If the waves were like this at every event, he would probably still be right there going for world title at 52 years old. Personally, I don't want to watch him strain himself for a good score. Rather see him surf timelessly in perfect conditions like this. If there is an epic forecast for an event and he wants to surf, that would be epic too. Either way, stoked to see my bro scoring. Surfing is the best thing ever.
Way to go, Strider. Love it. Like
Yeah.
completely true. Not necessarily slapping his employer hard, but speaking truth.
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah, breaking the wall of positive noise as well. Squarespace is the all in one website platform that is designed for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything from products to content to subscriptions. They have flexible templates with designs for every category, templates that are simple to drag and drop your artwork or logos into, but flexible enough to redesign to your specs. They have online store templates that make it easy to sell physical merchandise, digital or service products like podcast subscriptions and paywalled content. They even make customizable merch. You can design products and they will handle the production, inventory, and the shipping and handling. So let Squarespace handle it for you. They'll save you time, they'll save you money. And will save you money by going to squarespace.com/surf. You get a free trial and you get 10% off your first purchase. Squarespace.com/surf. Enjoy. Additionally, a number of notes came in the last 2 weeks about the Australian board riders event and just kind of complimenting that. And so we don't need to go on and on about it, but I will read one email. He says, "Good day, DLS and Chaz. Just got back from one of the most exciting surf events I've ever witnessed. The Australian board riders battle at Burleigh Heads. A solid weekend of sensational team surfing as more than 40 of the best board riding clubs from across the country swung hard in wild conditions to claim the ultimate prize in surfing. Organizers took a punt with the format this year, with a change of venue alone being risky, as anyone who's tried the rock jump at the point be fraught with enough danger. They made all the surfers sprint from the beach after the paddle in all the way up the Burleigh Hill to tag a teammate and go again. It was an Ironman type stuff, but so exciting to watch. Even my wife, who couldn't care less about professional surfing, was glued to it and made the comment that this was the type of thing that has to be adopted universally somehow. I think Olympics, because as well, there's nothing more crap than watching them sitting there and waiting for conditions as the commentators needing to crap on to fill the telecast. Boys, I agree with you verbatim that something's got to change with the WSL and where the sport's going. To me, this is a no-brainer as an option. Discuss. Great work, gents. Love the banner. Tony, Gold Coast, Australia.
Thank you so much, Tony. And yeah, I saw some clips of that and the running element and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it feels like it's a surf competition for the core by the core, and not to beat the dead mule of core, but that's what it is, right? This is not a global enterprise trying to convert people or trying
Yeah.
to necessarily, I'm sure they're making some money, but that's not the end all and be all of this thing. It is you know, I don't know, you build something for the core and I guess hope, not that the Australian board riders necessarily hope this, but you hope that something follows, that interest follows, and with interest comes opportunity and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, as opposed to the other way around, which it feels the surfing we get now, non-Australians, I suppose, or on a global basis, that World Surf League was built to generate money, and then they're trying to figure out how to do that on the back end
Yeah.
and
Well,
failing.
speaking of corporate crossover with surfing, quote, exclusives. Surf champ Carissa Moore signs with French house Dior ahead of the Olympics! Exclamation point.
How beautiful is that, David Lee Scales?
I
A
mean, look, it's a
pair match made in heaven is what it is.
I did not read the story. I don't know the details of this, but it seems like a match made in heaven and a phenomenal detour from the life on tour, the slog of the life on tour for the princess.
I mean, Carissa, again, when she announced that she was going to be taking time off from tour, I mean, I'm sorry, retiring. Stephanie Gilmore claimed time off. Carissa, the more honorable thing to do, retiring in prime, walking away, etc. Yeah. But she's still with Hurley. Hurley gave her the carve out as they should have. If you have Carissa and Dior comes and says, "Hey, we want to use Carissa," you say, "Please and thank you." Like
Yeah.
anybody who would hold Carissa back from anything would be a shameful, shameful person. But yeah, Dior going into the Olympics. I mean, Dior, for those of our dear listeners who are not fashion forward, Dior is a French fashion house. So, and of course, the Olympics being in Paris, wonderful. So I'm sure she'll be part of the face of around like summer, fashiony stuff. And did you see the picture
No, I didn't.
posted? Yeah, it's like a pulled back. It was a sneaky pick. But from what I could see, the whole thing, the campaign is going to look incredible.
Well, I'm wondering, is it just a photo shoot or is there some sort of longer play here?
I would imagine it's a campaign. I don't know details there. I would imagine it's a campaign centered around the Olympics. So
Okay.
probably like a six-ish month thing because, those, I mean, the wife, and by I mean my wife has done deals with high end, with like a Ferragamo, or I'm sorry, who was it with? With Xenia. And things like, with the higher end stuff, and they're just in a whole different class of who their consumer is, but they're not in the game of sponsoring necessarily. I mean, sometimes they do. I guess Montclair sponsored Yuri Padlogikov, and it happens, but it's just a different thing. And so, especially the fact that Chris is keeping Hurley, that this will be like a specific campaign around a specific thing, which is obviously French Olympic plus surfing.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Kudos. She is the right fit. I think she aligns beautifully with that brand.
Yep.
Um, Another little story that I saw this week was Lisa Anderson, quote, 2 months after shock split with Roxy, Lisa Anderson lists historic surfboard quiver collection for sale. You've spent time with Lisa Anderson. You made a film about Lisa Anderson called Trouble, a profile film. Um, my first thought with this was, is it possible? Like, worst case scenario here, my question for you is it possible she needs cash?
I hope not. I really, truly hope not. I would hope that everything is fine and that she just has an excess of boards, and why
Yeah.
not sell, right? And you can sell. Like if you're like, why, again, the clutter life. I live the
Yeah.
clutter life half the time and think, man, if I could just get rid of half this stuff, everything would be so much better.
Yeah.
But then you get bogged down. So I'm hoping that's what it is.
Me too. That was my first thought, was just like, oof. But look, I have 1/10, 1/20th the number of surfboards that I'm sure Lisa has, and it's too many and I want to get rid of them. But as previously discussed on this show, I don't like selling surfboards.
Yeah.
You get a fraction of basically what you paid for them, and then later down the road you wish that you wouldn't have sold it because you come back around to that design or style. So you end up just keeping this thing that takes a huge footprint in your house or your garage or whatever it is. And so I would imagine her quiver at this point is probably hundreds of boards large, and there's just no way to easily move that around if you're going to move your house or something. So maybe it is just a clearing of space. I sure hope so. I would like to see those things go to museums, even.
Was there a link on the story of how to participate in the sale or no? Was it just I didn't read?
I didn't read the story, but I did see her post about it on Instagram when she first posted, and she didn't say. So I'm like,
Okay.
I don't know if you just DM her or what, but
Yeah. So I guess if you want a Lisa Anderson surfboard, figure it out, folk.
yeah,
Get
yeah,
one.
exactly. Curious though. Okay, well, hey, we've got some deep, deep topics coming in from listeners. Do you want to address this fundamental quandary as it was stated in their subject header?
I sure do.
Okay,
Clean mountain air, making my brain ready to go.
good. And did you bring AG1 with you on the trip,
No, I
importantly?
did. I'm healthy as a horse. You know who's not healthy? The young daughter. Guess what she refuses often to do? Drink her ag1.com/surf.
It's the kids, it takes a while to develop discipline, but now
Yeah,
she's learning her lesson the hard way.
hard way.
Well, I took mine this morning. I'm feeling sharp as a tack. Drinkag1.com/surf. Okay. Fundamental quandary. Hello, David and Chaz and Derek. He sent this to Derek as well, who may or may not forward this to Chaz. Thanks for writing the good stuff, y'all. I grew up and live in British Columbia near Vancouver. I have a fundamental question for you. But before you ponder the question, I have a backstory I'll provide to give you some perspective. I grew up as a skier, mountain biker, fisherman, freediver, and among other things, a skateboarder. Funny thing is that from the earliest age I can remember, I was a surfer. Not one that could actually surf, mind you. My hometown was better for skimboarding and crabbing than it was for waves, but I loved everything about surfing. I loved the water, I loved swimming, I loved the romance and travel of the fact that it seemed like surfing was so exotic and foreign. Maybe my pale Northern European complexion would turn into a magnificent shade of copper brown if I spent enough time in the water. I wanted to do it so badly. So I did. I surfed, if you can call it that, on family vacations throughout my teenage years. Surf magazines took the place of Thrasher. My skate ramp was all about long grinds, and my bowl skating was all about pumping transitions and carving in the bowl. I'd visualized the same turns on a wave and dreamed of being at it only great at only surfing on shortboards. When I turned 19, my short tenure at university came to a close and I moved to the mountains to ski and work, I suppose. But any money I saved went towards my great escape to parts unknown to become the surfer that I wasn't. A late bloomer, yes. I was a voracious student of global geography, wave and weather science, coastal setups, and swell period and direction. I dreamed about the points and reefs and beach breaks that were scattered over the world. I purchased all of the surf reports. Anyone remember that manila yellow report that exposed surf spots worldwide and gave vague directions on where to find them? Well, I still have close to a full collection of that in a binder. I read Surfer Mag. I joined Surfrider, met fellow surfers, made tacos. In the early 90s, I drove my 1978 Volkswagen Westfalia from Vancouver to Panama, navigating only by paper maps and a decent sense of direction, surfing all sorts of spots along the way, trying to figure out how to exit and enter countries in broken Spanish. I hit spots from Seaside to McKee Creek to Rincon to Salsa Puedes, Pascuales to Tikla, places like La Libertad, Miramar, Witches, Suck Rock, Matapalo, sometimes discovering new spots along the way. I lived in South Baja for numerous winters, paddling out in bigger surf than what I think I'd be comfortable in now. Fishing, surfing, playing music, drinking Pacifico, and navigating points north of the Eagles' namesake hotel with guys like Mike Doyle and the Odd Curran, picking up scraps here and there. Met and became friends with the Alani brothers, Ira and Palapa Steve. I bought I bought a tiny surf shack in Costa Rica where I spent a lot of winters. Barrels were few and far between for me, but I remember them all. My calendar from about age 21 to my late 30s was a run uh, was to run my seasonal business 6 months a year, surf 3 months a year, and ski 3 months a year. It was a giant adventure, most of it done before the internet and instant communication. I managed to get to a competent level in my surfing and fully understood the nuances of negotiating a lineup from the far from expert, but also well removed from beginner. It was a blast. But life has a way of switching things up a bit. I met a girl and married just before turning 40. I adopted her son as my own, and I sold my house in the mountains to move into the city. My business was bigger and ran year round, and I had employees and customers that I was responsible for. I don't regret any of it, and having a family is the best thing that's ever happened to me, except I wasn't surfing. Don't get me wrong, I'd still go surf. I mean, I took my wife, who's not a surfer, not a big fan of the sun, to Fiji and scared the crap out of myself at Cloudbreak shortly after we were married. We went on to the surf shack in Costa. We went to Baja. As the years went on, those trips began to dwindle. Now they're reduced to one, maybe two annual trips here and there for a week at a time. I found myself not being excited at the prospect of traveling to Vancouver Island to surf cold waves in a wetsuit that didn't quite fit me as well as it used to. My time on surf trips was usually spent getting frustrated from the first few days, getting wave timing and paddling fitness and form back. My hips don't work as well, and an ACL injury were catching up. Takeoffs weren't what they used to be, and I remember being able to paddle faster than I can now. As you age, some things are hard to maintain. And I was a good dad, husband, business owner, baseball, ski coach. And there was never any shortage of fun, a core value that I still, or a core tenet that I still value. Fast forward to being 56 years old. And at this age, having been an adrenaline chaser my whole life, this past fall, a lapse in concentration on a mountain bike left me with spinal injuries. With 9 broken bones, including 5 in my back and 1 in my neck, I was extremely lucky to have all of my neurological faculties remain intact. I don't know how much longer I can go on mountain biking, but the situation seems to have awoken the surfer in me again. The new perspective has me wanting to take a real effort to get back into the water on a more consistent basis. Even if it's flat water paddling or trying to catch a wave on a 2 foot wind swell with a 4 second interval that has blown straight in overnight. I want to plan trips that include waves again. I have not done so yet, but I still have some healing to do. Have soft tops and disrespectful crowds devastated the scene? Did COVID and the internet really ruin and expose all of the secrets of everywhere? Why is a cheap old 78 Westphalia now selling for $25,000? Do I really need to get the weekend vans? Will I ever surf my 6'4" again? How the hell do I get out of this chest hole wetsuit without dislocating my shoulder? These are all good questions that bear discussion at some point, but at the risk of publicly skewering or labeling an old kook or bitter has-been, my fundamental question to you is finally this: am I still a surfer? I'll leave that with you with care to discuss. I can't be the only person wondering this, but maybe I am. Gracias, amigos, and Godspeed. If you believe that sort of thing, keep up the good work out there, boys. Jeff.
Great email, Jeff. I read this entire thing. When these ones come in, these like, and I like truly love them because it makes me think, okay, this is the community, right? This is the fun part of what we do or what we've been able to do, right? Or what we are blessed to do, I suppose, of being in this community, conversations, and that would be absurdist and asinine anywhere else, right? Like this existential, am I a surfer if I am not always surfing? Or all of these things, right? I think about this all the time. Like, it's weird. The surf brain is broken and weird at some point, but then there's other people who have the same broken, weird brain. And now all of a sudden you guys understand each other like nobody else, right? Like, uh, all that to say, yeah. So, dear Jeff, of course you're a surfer. The fact that you're agonizing is what makes you a surfer. Like, not that surfing or the surf life is about agony, but it is about, I think, perpetually trying to place yourself into it. Uh, or at least I feel this for me. Growing up in Oregon, I resonated with so much of what Jeff talked about, right? Like feeling like I wanted to be a surfer before I was actually a surfer.
Yeah.
Going down to Carlsbad and seeing my cousins doing this thing, or seeing driving down the California coast and just standing on the pier, even like places like Pismo Beach, or being in Santa Cruz and watching what, walking out to Steamer Lane and watching all of this stuff. It's not easily transported back to these, Vancouver or Coos Bay, or, very few people. I mean, you grew up, I suppose, on the opposite side of this in terms of a surfer in a surf community where surfing is what got you into surfing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Bodyboarding, spending time at the beach, basically, just being exposed to the beach was what got me into surfing. But I remember like surfing was different. Like I was spending time at the beach bodyboarding, but then I'd see the movie North Shore come on Channel 5 KTLA on a Saturday at noon. And I was like, wow, that standing on a surfboard, being kind of a manly man, all that stuff was different. And so that's what I aspired to. And I think that it was a lot of the superficial stuff that made me that I aspired to, like the hot chicks and I don't know what else. But
Love
then
hotel.
one, yeah, but then once I actually did it, it was a very, very different thing that sucked me in. And it was the lessons learned in surfing are metaphors for life. And I don't know that I fully understood that at age 12, but I did have a lot of athletic endeavors prior to that. And I, play football, play baseball, and all of those had elements of it. Like you go out and you play football in a league, and the hardship is like, oh, this fortifies me for when I go back to school on Monday and, I encounter whatever homework assignment or the teacher tells me what I need to do and I don't want to do it. But if I do it, then I get benefit from it. There's like these little lessons in those things. But in surfing, it was so much more straight into the bloodstream. It was like you were in an environment, your parents can't save you, nobody can save you. You have to learn very quickly. Your athleticism absolutely matters. Your preparedness absolutely matters. How much I studied North Shore and the other surf movies I want all apply right here. And when I survive and then maybe even have a success or two, and then I go back on land, I am taller, I am stronger, I'm more able to navigate everything. I can navigate traffic better. I can navigate people who interact with me and ask me a question, adults who put me in some sort of a situation that I would have previously been uncomfortable and insecure in. I am now super deft and savvy in how to navigate that conversation. So there's just something about the ocean and doing all of that that prepares you for life. And so that's what I identified. And that's why I do identify as a surfer, is that it's the closest tie for me to just learning experience for how to navigate the world.
Well stated, very well stated, and entirely true. And as it relates to Jeff, though, here's what I'll say: like, has it all blown out? So answering your fundamental question, yes, 100%. Jeff, you're a surfer, and I think, I don't know, I've always felt this maybe more keenly, of being from somewhere where it wasn't surf culture. It wasn't, Coos Bay, Oregon was not the mecca of the surf industry. And so having to create, but wanting this identity so bad, which I'll still totally plant my flag here, that wanting it trumps trumps doing it all the time, right? There's times and places
Yes.
in your life where you will not be able to surf, but wanting to surf is something, and this drive, and where I think that where I'll have beef with the Val or the COVID learner or the, all of these kinds of I'm not necessarily, or yeah, of course, as a surfer, you get frustrated when the lineups get more crowded. But my beef with modern learner is the lack of care. They have no desire. They're doing the thing without wanting the thing. I think wanting the thing trumps doing the thing. So they're out there in the lineup, getting in the way, not caring to learn any of the lessons, not caring to learn any of the history, not caring to do anything other than participate in the physical aspect of it.
Yeah.
where it's not that, right? That's the physical aspect of surfing is part of it, but it's this kind of weird soul yearning for surfing to me has always been almost more the essence. So A, Jeff, yes, you are a surfer. B, people are lazy. So you can go still, you just got to go further afield and you can find empty waves. You can find, I mean, stinking book, depending on your budget, you can book a vacation and basically surf alone.
Yeah. And I agree with everything that you just said about the desire being more important than, wave count, let's say at the other end of that. Um, but another element that he was tapping into in that essay that I think is relatable is if you had a certain number of waves that you were getting for a certain number of years, and then throughout your life, you're getting fewer because of the family obligation, the business obligation, there's this internal quandary, and that you're torn between. So it's okay to accept and acknowledge what he said, which is family's the best thing that's ever happened to me. The business is great. So I want, but you still need the touchstone of spending time in the ocean. So you are also right in saying the desire is important and that creates your identity. But there needs to be a certain amount of frequency that you do go and touch the water. And you don't have to get high wave count, you don't have to get barreled or any of that, but just getting that cleansing of the ocean taps you back into the reality of all those other things. Otherwise, it just becomes a facsimile.
Completely. And I think, there's a lot of ways, different ways to navigate that. How do I get back in the ocean, right? Where Jeff brought up, okay, should I just go paddle my local, right? Even if
Kind
it's
of.
not the
Yeah.
kind of waves that I want or like, but just the very, like, just going out and doing it. On one hand, that's, great. There's the other hand, I think of Matt Warshaw, Encyclopedia of Surfing, surfing's only and best historian, who I think he struggled a long time, right? Moved to Seattle thinking I can't, as a family man, I want different things now, that I don't want my life just to be completely dominated by the act of surfing. But so Matt, I think, and doesn't want to go surf cold, Vancouver Island or whatever, doesn't want to go surf the push up in Washington. So books a couple surf trips a year, right? Or has his time where he goes and surfs in the warm waves that he wants. But there's a million different ways to navigate the doing the thing. Uh, and you've got to do that. You've got to want the thing, but do the thing when you can in different ways. So, dearest Jeff, find which way looks better for you. Is it the Matt Warshaw way of booking a trip a year, or is it the, hey, I'm just going to go paddle what I got?
Yeah. And I think that if you do just the once a year thing, it is a good touchstone and it will tap you back in. But if you can do it more frequently, you will get extra benefit from it. You'll get out of it what you put into it. And so, but it is okay also to acknowledge this phase in my life that might be 5 years. I am not going to be able to do it as much as I did back when I was in my 20s. But guess what? The kids are going to grow up, they're going to go to college, and I'll have another 20 years where I'll be able to do it with great frequency. But for this 5 years or 10 years or whatever this is, I'm not going to feel guilt about it and I'm not going to feel anxiety about it. I'll do it again. That's okay
And
to acknowledge.
And also, as much as it pains me to say David Lee Scale, there's no shame in getting on a mid-length. There's no shame. I mean, we live in the future of board design, and you can or a bigger fish, right? Or there is ways to get your pop-up back and get these things back via the craft itself, right? We
Yeah,
don't have to be, I mean, he talks about, will I ever ride that 6'4" again? 100% you will ride, maybe not that 6'4", but a 6'4". It might be a slightly different shape, or, the magician of shapers, right? Shapers have like the trajectory of what they do and what they know. And I mean, we live in a golden era of surfboard design.
exactly. How are you doing on time in Revelstoke?
I am great on time. There's the most annoying sound ever. Can you hear that? Somebody's like drilling something down there.
Nope.
What about that right there?
It's not. No, to be honest, I maybe the listeners can, but I'm not hearing it at the
Okay,
moment. So
great.
you're okay. Factormeals.com/surf50. Let me tell you, Factor Meals has filled a specific gap in our lives that has simplified our busy schedules and satisfied and nourished us. If you follow me on social media, you know that I love to cook. My wife and I love food and wine, but there are still at least 5 meals a week where we're just underprepared, short on time, and don't want to make a bad dietary decision, nor sacrifice the pleasure that we get out of dining. Factor has solved it. Chef prepared meals that are delivered to your house weekly. They take 2 minutes to heat up and they're designed to be eaten anywhere. There's no prep, no cooking, and you can recycle the package that it comes in. Delicious meals that are good for you with over 35 options to choose from each week. Go to factormeals.com/surf50. Less expensive than dining out, more delicious, more nutritious. Factormeals.com/surf50. Pros in the wild, David Lee and Chaz. Man, you guys always pull deep lost, long lost memories from the subconscious. You should charge more for your therapy sessions. I was listening to your Jimbo Pros in the Wild stories and was cracking up about that guy meeting him in the internet cafe at Bali. So my story is also in Bali, but during winter when places that are not so well known are cooking without the dry season crowds. So there I was with two my surf traveling companions, one salty old dog from NZ, and our young accomplice from Kona side, Big Island. We were the only three dudes in a boat getting ready to depart from the beach when this board comes hurling into the boat at our feet. It was this mayhem. It looked to be about 6'10" and was a massive 5 inches thick with a fish outline. 6'10" fish. We look at the board, look at each other, then instinctively turn around to see who threw the board in. Jimbo. He says, "Hey, brah, grab my board, yeah?" in his best howly pigeon. He then proceeds to climb over the gunnel of the boat and slithers on like a walrus, minus the grace. His companion is a small dude with a bodyboard. Jimbo looks at all of us. Then he focuses in on my friend from Kona and he goes, "Hey, where are you from?" My friend says Kona, to which Jimbo responds, "Yeah, bro, I thought you looked familiar." Just like the dude in the internet cafe story, this guy speaks so loudly and obnoxiously that it's comical. Anyways, the boat guys are jabbering back and forth with wide-eyed amazement at this big dude going surfing. This is probably a couple years after that famous Lost video, and he's had quite a few Nazi gorangs since then, if you know what I mean. He is not small. So we cruise out the channel into the water, out to the outer reef, and it's big. There's no one in the lineup, so it's hard to gauge, but we had already surfed a little bit earlier, so we know exactly what to expect. But we pulled up during a lull, and Jimbo doesn't take any time to assess the situation. He and the booger just immediately throw their boards overboard and then dive in without their leashes attached. When Jumbo jumps off the side of the boat, the whole boat starts heeling from his weight. The, the boat guys are laughing in amazement, and it's not a small boat. It's probably a 20-foot Boston style whaler. Anyway, we look up and this huge set is approaching. The captain sees it, so he nails the throttle and we crash over a couple of waves that are in the 15 to 18 foot range. We look back to see Jimbo dog paddling towards his board as fast as possible, but it's about 20 meters away from him. There's no chance in hell that he's going to get to this board before this huge whitewater does. Sure enough, a 6-wave set sweeps both of their boards into oblivion. Another set goes by, and then we see Jimbo and his companion have also been dispatched for a long, long swim through the lagoon and to the beach. My friends and I were the only ones out surfing for the entire afternoon, howling and cackling after that encounter. This was probably 16 years ago. And anytime we meet up for a surf and we throw our boards in the car, one of us will inevitably say, "Hey, bro, grab my board, yeah?" Classic. Sincerely, Scott.
Absolutely love it. That is so funny. That is very, very, very funny. Which Pros in the Wild segment is great. Of course, we've talked about it. Like, the Currens and didn't the whole thing start with basically Curran in the Wild?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And now it's
So,
Jimbo and John Peck in the wild.
I mean, which is the funny thing, right? It's gotten more funny. I think the more obscure the surf personality has gotten, the funnier the stories get I mean, they're all great. And the ones of the big names are great too. But it's the Jimbo stories or the peck stories are properly like genuinely funny.
I'm getting to know Jimbo. You know what I mean? Like week after
Yeah.
week. I've never met him in my life. I've seen a couple video clips of him, and now I feel like I'm getting to know him.
You have a sense of who Jimbo Pellegrin is. Other funny note about that story, I guess semi-related, is the surfer joy at seeing another surfer, a fellow surfer. And you can love this surfer. This surfer can be your best friend, cheering for the wave, the whitewash, to get the board and take it away over the guy swimming and getting it. It's like, have you ever cheered for a dude to get his board before the set cleaned it up?
Hell no. Hell no. I mean, well, the beauty about that story building, as he wrote the email, was Jimbo being the obnoxious douche. Like we're all sitting here, in the boat ready to go surf, and then a board hits our feet. And then the guy jumps in and he's, you know, obnoxiously loud in his delivery, and he's just a sight to see, and he's dominating the whole situation. So that already dictates some element of tension in the storyline. So then for him to have the hubris to show up in a brand new lineup and not assess anything, but just think, oh, I'm going out, I'm paddling out, I'm going to be the first one out, in fact, and then get dealt the hand by Mother Nature, like I described earlier. It is a metaphor for life. Be that douche, and Mother Nature will check you.
Jimbo Pellegrin learned that day that life gives you licks. It'll take your arm even at some point, but you just keep on ticking.
Well, this is what I'm learning about Jimbo week after week, is that he never learned the lesson.
Or
Eventually life took his arm,
sure,
and maybe he learned it then. We don't know because we haven't heard we need a story from post
a
losing an
modern
arm.
Jimbo,
Yeah.
but also, what if just learned? What if Jimbo's life lesson is I can survive anything? Which Jimbo could have rolled through the lagoon, got straight urchined up, and come out thinking, well, guess who survived? Jimbo.
He is really putting Mother Nature like to her
Yeah.
limits, you
Which
know.
which is like, what better character to put mother like to face off? Let's to sumo wrestle Mother Nature.
I mean, he's pushing her right to the edge of that tiny little circle, and her foot is like creeping out. I had a battle with my 2-year-old this morning with Austin. We got a new babysitter we're trying out, and he's trying to win this
Yeah.
battle.
Yeah.
And so 30 minutes before we recorded this, he was like going full meltdown mode, like, and I was ready to lose. I was ready
Yeah.
to give him everything that he asked for just so that he would shut the hell up. And it was like 30 minutes of nonstop. I needed the 30 minutes in between to decompress before pushing record with you. And that is Mother Nature right now.
It is totally Mother Nature, like Jimbo has dealt her such a harsh blow that that's probably why we haven't heard. Well, we need a Jimbo in the wild story, but we probably haven't heard just because Mother Nature is panting on the sidelines while Jimbo's just strutting around the ring.
That's how COVID happened. He pushed her to her limits and it birthed COVID. Um, the video that came up when we asked, like, hey, has anybody heard from Jimbo, since he lost his arm, or recent updates or anything like that? So then the video pops up of him going on a racist tirade
Yeah.
with a clerk at a gas station. I don't know if you ever read the comments of that video, but somebody points out that as he's exiting the door, you notice shit stain on his pants.
Well, in that case, maybe Mother Nature won at the end.
No, Mother Nature hasn't won yet, but the point is he's also panting on the sideline. Like
Yeah.
he's been pushed to his limit where he doesn't have clean pants on or doesn't have access to clean pants. Maybe he's unaware that his pants aren't clean, but like they are really, really pushing each other. There is
Yeah.
global warming happening on one end, and he's missing an arm, sweating with a shit stain on his pants on the other end in middle America, far from his 6'10", 5-inch thick fish. They've each had better days. Let's put it that way. Well, on another note, incidentally, A John Peck story came through this morning. I'm going to
Oh
save it for
yes.
next week.
Okay,
So we'll
great.
do Peck in the Wild again. Um, let's see. Okay, true grit or clickbait shit. Quote, surfing miracle. Tyler Wright wows medical establishment by overcoming most insane health obstacle yet! Exclamation point.
It's true. And who would have ever seen this coming? David Lee Scales,
I don't
Tyler,
know. I don't know what I even
yet
saw coming.
again,
What happened?
yet again, the walking medical miracle of Tyler Wright. This time, uh, apparently she has been suffocating, semi-suffocating her whole life. Her nasal passages or airways are too small, not getting enough oxygen. Doctors confounded that she can do what she does. And I think I mean, she says directly, which I didn't read this. Somebody put this in the comments, which I'm assuming is a true, like the continuation of her statement. But doctors, couldn't imagine that I do what I do. And not only do what I do it at the best level possible, be one of the best to ever do it. And how do you do this, Tyler Wright? Semi-suffocating. So apparently she got this fixed over you remember when she came, I remember seeing a picture of her and her teeth were really spread apart. And I thought, oh, huh. It registered, but I didn't think much of it otherwise. But
They
that was,
were so the teeth. She posted a photo 6 months ago, like smiling on Instagram with her teeth looking like hillbilly, like
yeah,
fake teeth that you would buy for like Halloween and bite
Billy Bob
onto.
teeth, whatever they
Billy
were called.
Bob teeth.
Yeah.
And everybody was DMing us like, what the hell? Is this a joke? And it clearly wasn't. Like they were her real teeth. So,
Yes. So that's why
so
she had her. I assume, yeah, they like expand your palate or something. And so, yeah, it like widens your whole deal to give you more. She said she got extra millimeters of airway stuff. And Tyler Wright is someone who, in the surf pantheon of characters, somebody talked about, I did a story on Lucy Small, those who
oh, that's coming up next.
okay, great. But for those who know Lucy Small, somebody in which you know her, I know her, I think our listeners probably are aware of her. Beach Grit community certainly is, which is somebody called it the Beach Grit cinematic universe of these characters who are like, yeah, they wouldn't be known anywhere else. But through the beauty of beating a dead horse, we all have, yeah, these characters. Tyler Wright is one of these characters. But Tyler Wright, what goes through her mind when she thinks this is the time again to share my medical journey? Like she's done this through with her menstruation. She's done this with her post-viral, and all of these. I don't doubt any of these are real things and her, but how often have you felt compelled, David Lee Scales, to really open up about all of your various ailments and or, whatever? Like maybe coming from maybe this is just rude and old manish, but I'm like, keep that damn stuff to yourself, man. Like, who
Yeah.
cares? Who cares? Who cares? Like, if you're overcoming some giant thing that you can then maybe help people with, that's even questionable for me. Of like, keep your medical history to your damn self. There is a reason for HIPAA laws. There is a
Yeah.
reason that our whole medical histories are, not splayed everywhere. Tyler, what are you like this kind of narcissism where you look at that and you think, okay, she's so unaware of others that she truly is like narcissistic, unfortunately.
Well, the narcissistic part is her saying doctors are astounded that I'm able to perform at the highest level in the world given this, you know, limitation that I have. That part feels narcissistic. The part about sharing it is the only thing I can imagine there is for other people who are going through something similar to have, inspiration or
Yeah, but
or
you
or
would think
maybe
it's,
a reminder to get something checked out or something like that. But the way that she's doing it feels more like a profile building.
I mean, the whole thing though, every one of them is like she's sculpting a pieta to herself, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
this figure of Tyler Wright, of the, beautiful, besieged, what like all of it just feels again, not that I don't doubt that she's going through all of this stuff, but the narrative of Tyler Wright is so annoying, so cloying that it's unfortunate that she doesn't have someone in her camp to say, hey, Tyler, you as the put upon figure, you as being forced to surf because your dad made you surf. All of this kind of stuff, it just doesn't play well. Like the figure now of Tyler Wright, it never had to be this. I never felt negatively about Tyler Wright until the last couple years, which is like these nonstop sob stories of the incredible burden of being Tyler Wright.
I think really what it gets distilled down to and what you're tapping into is our exposure to her before, and probably a realistic kind of perception on her is raised near the beach, being able to surf kind of throughout your entire life, earning millions of dollars and world titles, and then flipping her own personal kind of self-image into the victim
Yeah.
of, well, I was forced to surf by my dad, and I have these physical maladies that are actually plaguing me, and I am really put upon, and I'm a victim. Basically,
Yeah.
I'm a victim. And so the rest of the world, I think we can sympathize with those things as being real problems, but only under the understanding that you are among the most privileged people who have ever walked on the planet.
Yeah.
So, like, you literally are 1% of across cultures, across time
You're
for
a
being in this.
1% of a 1%.
Yeah. And so you need to acknowledge that. And then we can also, understand that you had a shitty father and all these other things. But it feels right now like she's not acknowledging her privilege.
No, no. I mean, it's the way it comes across, at least. It's me, Tyler Wright, and the starving children of Sudan
Yeah,
are more or
exactly.
less the same.
Yeah, exactly. Well, quote, true grit or not, quote, surf feminist hero Lucy Small openly ponders French existence. Quote,
She
how
did.
are French people even alive? Was apparently her quote.
I really love like Lucy Small, and God bless Lucy Small. She's great, right? Like I think her work is great. I mean, she burst onto the scene, for those who don't know, challenging equal pay. Like she won a longboard contest in Australia, like a regional, crap longboard contest. We got paid like a fraction of what the men winner of this crap regional longboard contest got paid, and called him out on stage. And this is where Lucy Small came from. Great, right? I mean, it's good work, it's important work. It's funny when people do the good work and the important work, but then like go slightly left of field and do when you're again, there's another Lucy Small story today of her pounding Billabong for returning to sexist marketing, like Billabong doing bikini shots now instead of featuring, their, I don't know if they even have a women's surf team left, but in any case, but in the middle of that, Lucy Small in France, wondering, saying French people, man, like stand-up comedy style routine of French people. They drink all day, they smoke from birth, and they live to be 105, looking beautiful. Yeah, how does like which which is funny when
So,
she's always serious, and then to be able to take this and say and make it equally serious to how normally she is.
okay. I didn't quite understand how she was pondering their existence, but now I get it. Like the way that they live their lives is an anomaly,
Yeah, I
basically.
mean, and that's what she was in France clearly and saying, and it was that kind of thing. It was like a old school shtick of, I see him drinking wine, with breakfast and smoking like chimneys and living forever. How does this happen? But like this comedy shtick as part of Lucy Small is rarely funny. In her, her feed is usually hammering social issues.
Yeah.
And so elevating the How Are French Alive into the social issue realm, I found funny. Maybe I was the
It,
only one.
no, it's very, very funny. I stopped paying attention to her. I forget what the issue was. Oh, it was Israel Palestine.
Yeah.
And so I stopped paying attention to her at that moment because it was like, I am interested in the social justice stuff. And I was kind of curious on her take on certain things. But in that moment, like she so misunderstood the opposite side of what she believed that it was like a willing ignorance is the way that it
Really weird.
was. Like a super, like you can have a strong opinion about one side of the battle, but you need to be open-minded or understand where the other people come from or whatever. You have to have some amount of, I don't know, openness to hear the other side or whatever. Her interpretation of it was just such a misunderstanding of the global picture and such a single-minded focus on this one issue, with, again, a willing ignorance about the bigger picture, that I was like, man, I'm not interested in even hearing what this person has to say anymore.
I
Like,
mean, to me, a Lucy Small does have something to say for equality in surf, or this kind of thing. Lucy Small is not, to me, or in my understanding, a student of geopolitical,
no,
theater,
yeah,
or of, specifically the Israel-Palestine conflict. And so learning some little thing about it and thinking, now I'm going to hammer on this too, because this is part, I am a activist and I'm going to activate around here. It seems like maybe learn a little, and then if you want, you don't always have to share. You can learn and learn for a minute.
I know. Well, it's interesting though, once you become known as an activist, like if that is what your star to fame was, your rise to fame was, then you have to continue to be an activist
You
at every
activate
turn,
always. Yeah,
which is really, I mean, exhausting, I would imagine.
I would too. But
Okay.
French people, there's the issue of the French people still living that now she can
Yep.
deal with.
It is very confounding. I will say that. I think, to be honest, if we want to address that for a second, part of it is ignoring like all modern scientific data that comes in that is like, you should not do those things. Just ignoring it and just charging ahead with what you know to be true for you. Once you acknowledge that, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be eating cheese anymore, the next time you eat cheese, your stomach is going to hurt.
I mean, you're exactly to the point. People who think that today's du jour medical science is the medical science to end all medical science is insane. How
Yeah.
many times have we heard, eat this, don't eat this, eat this, don't eat this, eat this?
Yeah.
Like the yo-yo, where exactly, like I think French people disregard and don't care, and we all should, right? I mean, of course, I think the general idea of whatever we know at the very most general of, like, okay, maybe, a certain type of eating, I can't even, who knows, like, because red meat, for example, is great one day, horrible for you the next day, all of this stuff. Just disregard what makes you feel okay. General, probably smoking is not a best idea, or getting wasted all day, every day. But hey,
But
man,
they're
there's Keith Richards.
true. And the point is, though, they aren't
Yeah.
getting wasted all day. Like, there's a moderation. And so they understand. I'm totally stereotyping when I say they. I'm speaking for the entire country of France. But just as a culture, like having a glass of wine or two isn't going to kill you. The hyperfixation on it is what will kill you. The
Yeah.
stressing out about what does this mean? What I
Yeah.
really need to be meticulous about my calorie count and all that, that is actually worse for you. Like what comes with their philosophy on a cigarette here and there, you know what, a threesome here or there, a bottle of wine a day. Like, I'm just not going to take it that seriously. And my husband's going to acknowledge it and I'm going to acknowledge it or whatever. That comes, there's a benefit of that, which is just an easygoingness where your stress levels and everything else compensate for the extra calorie. You know what I
I mean,
mean?
I can't imagine, and especially in this day and age where, like, a spicy headline is what people need to do. Like if you were actually believing every uh health headline of what to do or not to do, you would be crazy and dead within a matter of 10 years.
Completely. You will develop a cancer from the stress that you
Yep.
put on yourself, you know? So I get, okay, we're no doctors, but there's our advice. There's our medical segment for today. You know what? Take Jimbo's approach. Follow
Just push motivate.
Jimbo and fight back as hard as you can. Okay, well, let's go to commercial break because we need to hear from, you want to hear who our sponsors are this month?
Heck yeah, I do.
Squarespace.com/surf,
Love it.
rocketmoney.com/surf.
Financial, both of them, right? Squarespace is a financial tool, is it
It's a
not?
website builder.
Same diff.
Yeah, exactly. Make some money on there. And factormeals.com/surf50. So
Make
we're going to
money and feed yourself.
go to commercial, hear from them, and then we'll be back. Rocketmoney.com/surf. Just this week, my wife figured out she was paying a subscription for Showtime, but then also paying for Paramount Plus, which includes Showtime for free. That's precisely what Rocket Money was designed for. A modern tool that meticulously tracks the details that we easily get distracted from. It's a finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your monthly spending, and helps you lower your bills. It gives you freedom by helping you see your subscriptions in a simple dashboard and alerts you about hidden fees or increases. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has helped save its members an average of $720 a year with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. Stop wasting money on things that you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/surf. Calm the clutter in your head, simplify the tedium of your financial life, and find freedom through rocketmoney.com/surf. Chaz, we are back with an email from Tom in Florida who says, please play Poo Poo Touch song more. I now sing it in the lineup. Tom in Florida.
Great.
What do you think? Should we honor his request?
Yes, please.
Look, I only played a little bit of it last week, and I think what he's saying is he wants the full Poo Poo Touch so he doesn't have to go back and find it in the middle of an episode from weeks ago.
Touch. You'd have the poo-poo touch. You'd have the poo-poo touch. You got the poo-poo touch. The poo-poo touch is real. He does the poo-poo touch on whoever he feel. Elo's legacy. He did the poo-poo touch and was touching me. WSL, did we fail? The champ is bowed out. I wish him well. Surfing seems it's upside down. The girls are boys and the boys are girls now. The poo-poo touch is the touch of poo-poo. Cause I don't want no chickens and cho-poo. The poo-poo touch, it stinks of poo-poo. Cause I don't want no final five. The poo-poo touch, it stinks of poo-poo. Cause I don't want no chickens and cho-poo. The poo-poo touch. Touch a poo-poo, cause I don't want no final fight. No, I wanna see him surf pipe. Yeah.
Is that a melodica he's playing?
DJ Seaweed always goes best when he strains his voice to the maximum, like where there's nowhere else it can go, but he holds it.
It is a spectacular performance.
Yep.
I like the little like in between. Yeah, it's really, really good.
Seaweed, artist in prime.
Forgot how good that song is.
Yeah.
But is that a melodica?
It must be.
It's like a piano, but you blow into a blow into a tube that then fuel like an air. What are those Scottish things?
Bagpipe,
like a bagpipe, but it's attached to a piano.
Yes.
I think that's what it is.
Yep.
Wow, talented is what he is.
So talented.
Okay, thank you, DJ Seaweed. Thank you, Tom in Florida, for the reminder there. Barrel or not, small talk with a cashier when there's a line behind you.
So no, barrel. I think this goes, the whole bucket, I think when we write our advice guide, self-awareness is number one. And so, yes, that cashier's got to be there no matter what. That cashier is on the clock. Doesn't matter really to him or her, I would imagine. I'm sure there's the one who's pride of job of getting the line moving and all that. But you being self-aware, you thinking this world revolves around me and my thing. So I'm going to make these people wait while I do my thing. Never, ever do your thing. Always be aware.
So yes, of course, that is how I feel about this as well. However, I've noticed over time that I seem to be the only one who's in a hurry. And I'm like, okay, if I was the cashier, I wouldn't want anybody to talk to me. I would keep my head down and just be like, let's get through this as fast as we can. Efficiency is key. That's what's best for my employer. That's what's best for me, right?
Yeah.
But again, I'm taking a survey nowadays and I'm like, the cashier looks like they're enjoying this interaction. The person who the customer looks like they haven't left the house. It's an old person, doesn't interact with a lot of people. They look like they need this. And the people around me don't seem
Aren't
like
caring.
there's in any rush because there's a line of 5 people in it and a line that's empty, and a 6 person just got in the 5 person line. So they're not in a hurry because they're not looking for the shortest line like I do. I'm the only one who's annoyed right now.
Oh, this is bad. So you and yeah, I've never even really considered this, that I was in the wrong of wanting things to move quickly and cleanly and interaction to be kept to a minimum.
I mean, that's just what I'm noticing, like,
Yeah,
and so maybe human interaction, like I get enough of it. I am fortunate. I am the Tyler Wright of fortune and privilege in this scenario where I have loving family, loving friends, and I don't need more, right? But I think that there's a very lot of number of people nowadays that their main connection to the world is through their phone, maybe. And so they go out into the real world and they interact with a human being and they crave it.
yeah. Okay, I'm with you. But if you're going to, yeah, I guess you can't. I guess you can't because I'm not going to put my Tyler Wright of pain on the line. So yeah, I'm going to go barrel, I guess. Just chat away. Like,
I'm really
hurry be
torn.
damned. Hurry be damned.
I would say, yeah, I mean, I'm really torn on this one because, again, my instinct is just don't talk, don't waste time. But I guess my advice here would be look around, be sympathetic or maybe empathetic. Look around and sense who needs what in this moment and suck up your own need for speed and go ahead and give in. If they look like they're really enjoying this, do not crowd them out and give them evil stares.
I'm totally with you.
Okay. Wow.
Uh,
Learning moment for you and I suppose.
Such a huge learning moment.
Okay. Barrel or non, number two, putting your arm between when hugging another dude.
Putting your arm between.
Like where you
Oh,
go, you grip the
underneath.
hands first. Like you do like a handshake first, and then you
Yeah,
go in for a hug and you embrace them with the other hand, but your two hands are interlocked in between your chests so that there's a little bit of a barrier.
I hear you. I hear you. And now I can picture it cleanly. And no, you boom to the pull in, engage both arms.
So you go fully wrapped, both arms around the
Uh,
back with
I'm
chest touching.
I'm thinking about this now though. Like there is an important time for the degree of separation. The degree of separation is for the person who's more than acquaintance but less than friend, right? Or there's the I like the slap hug for somebody who you're really happy to see. The slap slight pull is someone like, hey, I like them both. They both have a place in the nonverbal
Communicate.
the
Yeah.
pantheon.
So what you're saying is there is no universal policy. The move absolutely represents your deeper feeling towards that person.
Precisely. And not
Okay.
if I grab and we go in, I mean, yeah, because not everybody should want to be best friends with everybody too. Like my daughter is in a place now where she wants me, and I don't know why she wants this, but wants me to be best friends with her friends' dads, which were totally cool. Me and her friends' dads are totally cool. I really like all of her friends' dads. I have my best friends. I can't just make all of a sudden, I don't know why you need, I swear it's great. But they don't want me to be their best friend either, right? We have our friends and we have each other and all of like the complex web of personal interaction is important. If it was all flat, if everyone was either 100% your best friend or you didn't know them, that would be a weird way to live.
Yeah, completely. Well, with this question presented, what I thought initially was the reason dudes are doing that thing where you keep your arms in between you when you go for the hug and you just go with a one arm embrace around the back was because of a discomfort with their willingness to be intimate with a male friend. But you're right in that that same male might go full embrace with a different male. This
Yes.
is just an actual nonverbal communication on where you lie on the spectrum of love for me.
If you have never hugged another man as a man, then I think you need to go look deeply in the mirror at your own why you're not doing that. Like you don't have to publicize it, you don't have to make it a deal, but it's something that you need to think about.
Correct. Yeah. Find a male. that you are comfortable with giving a full embrace and squeeze
Exactly.
tightly.
Exactly.
Okay, good. Also, wow. Okay, powerful stuff today.
Yep.
All right, barrel or non number 3, chewing with your mouth open.
Oh, this is a no barrel David Lee Scales, and I'm trying to think if I do this.
Well, here's why I bring it up. I don't know. This was a lesson that we were taught when we were very young, but I don't know any adults who actually implement this lesson.
That's
There,
true.
everybody chews with their mouth open. I think it's a bridge too far if you're talking with a mouthful of food. Of course,
You're
that's
exactly
obvious,
right. You're
but there's
exactly right.
nobody that like it's actually very uncomfortable to
Weird.
keep your
It's
lips
weird.
sealed and to chew. It's more, I don't know if it's drawing air over your food accentuates the flavors or whatever, but it's actually more comfortable and pleasurable to chew with your mouth open.
I totally agree. I never thought about this. This is a wonderful barrel or not, and you're exactly right that chewing with your mouth closed is weird. Yes, talking with food in your mouth is a no-no. Maybe smacking, like really calling attention. If
Yeah.
somebody sees you chewing your food because you are making it that obvious, that's uncool too. But everyone else, just chill, man. Just in the, because if I saw somebody really purposefully keeping their lips closed, I would think you're a weirdo. You're,
It's
yeah,
it's physically uncomfortable to do. Like you strain to keep your lips sealed while you're chewing a large bite of
weird.
food.
And you don't want to be weird. I think one of the other points of the show is don't be weird. Don't be like a weird outlier.
That's true. And it's a
I'm not,
social norm now to chew with your mouth open. So
yeah,
be normal.
have at it.
Have at it. Yep.
Do as everyone else does.
Agreed. Okay, good. All right. Well, hey, when do you come back from Canada?
Monday.
Okay.
It's been a long old time here in Canada, or it feels like it. Is today Friday?
Today's Friday.
Friday. Okay, great. Yeah, Monday.
Did the event end yet?
The finals has not, but the that first live day is in the can, and yeah, people should go watch it. It's funny. Uh, now that you mention, I did a story on it and was talking to the or I did a couple stories on it and was talking to the person who does the PR for natural selection the other day. And I was just jokingly said, oh yeah, I'm delivering that elusive surf crossover snowboard fan. And she said, actually, you totally are, because surfers are one of the only groups on earth who will happily watch 6 hours of live coverage in the middle of a workday.
Yeah, 6 is brief. We're used to
Yeah,
watching 10
yeah.
or
Totally. I was thinking about all sports, like even long golf and stuff, right? Always on the weekends when people actually watch it. Like no other thing that I can think of is smack dab, doesn't matter what day it is, smack dab in the middle of a workday at 4 a.m., whenever, and we're just going to run 10 hours of programming. Here you go.
Yeah,
Yep.
yep. Defies all logic.
Yep.
All right, well, good. Enjoy the rest of your trip. I guess we will see you next week back in California. Everybody, you are welcome for planting the poo poo touch in your head for the rest of the week. It'll just pop up randomly.
You
But
got the poop touch. Now you've got it. Ever got the poop touch?
all right, well, enjoy it. And go to beachgrit.com, go to surfsplenderpodcast.com, and find us on social media at Surf Journalist for Chaz and then at Surf Splendor for me. And until next week.
Keep work.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.